right, so the last little part about Persia here, and again, the Persian Empire spanned this whole area. They had tried to defeat the Greeks, and they lost. And then for about 100 years, they kind of retrenched and controlled themselves. But then this new person emerges out of Greece, named Alexander the Great, who was actually from Macedonia. His father was the king of Macedon, Philip. And the Macedonians had just recently moved in and also annexed or taken over control of most of Greece. And then when Alexander's dad died, he decided, because this legacy, and this is why I think this is really interesting, right? The history of this Persian War and the Persian invasion of Greece that took place about 100 years before. And Alexander says, "I want to do that. Right? I want revenge for that, and I'm going to conquer all of Persia." And really, this is what the Alexander the Great's campaigns were. It was a response to the earlier Persian invasion, and that Persia was still a very viable, huge empire. It had been kind of weakened a little bit, but that's what the whole point of the Greek conquest was. It was sort of payback for these early Persian wars. And you can kind of see here that over the course of about 10 years, you can follow all these dates if you want to. We won't go through each one. But Alexander took over Anatolia, down into Egypt, and then along into what is now Persia, conquers that, all the way to Persepolis. Actually, I think he burns Persepolis down to the ground, goes all the way back up into what is now Bactria, northern kind of Central Asia here, crosses the Hindu Kush into what is known back in the day as Gandhara. We'll talk about it a little later, all the way up into the Indus. So the Alexander the Great in 10 years, one of the most famous celebrated campaigns in world history that we have. Again, we have a lot of we have at least one full text about these campaigns that have been recorded over time. And again, I mean, I'm probably not fully accurate, but at least gives an idea of what this conquest looked like. And the Persians were sort of declining at this time. So, but the Greeks moved in, and Alexander goes all the way here, and then he gets here, and then as the story goes, his army was like, all right, that's far enough. Right? We don't need to go any further. Let's turn back, and he does. And he goes. One group goes over land, another group goes by ship, and then they get into Susania. And then I think this is where Alexander gets really sick, and he dies. He dies in Babylon. We don't really know. We don't really know what he dies from. It's a little bit, maybe probably some sort of disease, as they were pretty rampant at this time. But he dies there, and then but this kind of conquested, defeated, expanded into Persia. And the aftermath of this is that the Alexander's conquests are split into three major kingdoms: the Macedonians and what is Greek, and Macedon and the Antigonid Empire. The other one here, the Egypt. This is where the Greeks take control of Egypt. So some people have mentioned Cleopatra. She's part of this Ptolemaic dynasty kingdom. So Greek rulers took over Egypt after the fall of Alexander. And then one of Alexander's generals, Seleucus, takes over what is the Persian Empire. So again, the imperial structure still remains. There's centralized rulers. Now it's just the Greeks in charge. Right? Here's a example of a Greek pharaoh. So again, kind of the Greeks rulers, but they take these the status of the pharaoh and apply it to themselves. And here you can kind of see the way the imprint of the Greeks we have in Seleucid and into Asia is a lot of the art comes in, and you can see this Greek influence in particularly early Gandharan Buddhist art, which is over here, sort of in what is now the northern stretches of the Indus, what is now technically northern Pakistan. But you can see this is definitely a Greek-looking figure that is in what is now South Asia, up here in Bactria and Gandhara. So Seleucid Empire, they rule for about quite a bit, about 300 years. Over time, their power base really shifts a little more east here into Bactria. These Greco-Bactrian rulers kind of control these areas. They start minting a bunch of coins. We know that some of them interacted with the Marian Empire. This Greek Megasthenes wrote a book about his travels. He's an envoy that was sent to Pataliputra, so we have connections between the Greeks in South Asia. Here's a very famous Eucrates, one of the last Greco-Bactrian rulers, this huge Greek coin. Here's some more examples of Buddhist, Greek influenced, Hellenistic influenced art of Gandhara. There was a famous Greek city up here, Iconium, which was sort of as the Greeks came, they sent a lot of the military would settle there. Kind of these early Greek colonies spreading Hellenistic thoughts and ideas. We'll get into that again, kind of back into that when we get into Greek history of Greece as well. And then as the Seleucids sort of started to decline and their power bases shifted more east, this new group, the Parthians, which were from this sort of area of Iran, expanded out and reconquered, and Seleucids sort of declined. The Greeks went away, and these new groups, the Parthians ruled for about 200 years over a much smaller Greek Persian Empire, right? Just basically what is now Mesopotamia and the sort of Iranian lands. They lost Egypt to the Greeks and Anatolia as well as their power base to the east. But they consolidate their worlds. They set up a new capital, actually kind of near Babylon, at Ctesiphon. Here's some relics of that. The first one was Arsaces in 247. One of the first major rulers here is Mithridates. We have a lot of their coinage, so we kind of know these Greek names and who they are. Persepolis was somewhat rebuilt, but it was burnt down by Alexander, and the new capital here, a little more centrally located in what is now be Mesopotamia. Some other things we know about them. We have visitors from the Han Chinese visiting the Parthian Empire. This empire will be contemporaneous with Rome, as well as the Kushan. So this is the Iranian world of the Silk Road, which was very vital to these larger interregional connections. As their empire went on, their coinage became more and more elaborate. Here you can see the sort of headdresses of these rulers with different. Each one had a different symbol, so we kind of know who these rulers were. A lot of them were inscribed, so we know their names. Here's the name of one of these rulers there, and they fought a lot between the Roman Empire, particularly in Mesopotamia. Hadrian and Trajan and Hadrian will kind of fight back and forth. So the Roman Empire here and the Parthians, Kushans, and the Han. This is sort of the beginning of this would be the Persian power empire along the Silk Road.